Hey everybody, and welcome to the Wrap Up Live. This is the official Raptors Republic live post-game show and podcast where we recap and we talk about the latest Raptors game you just watched. I'm your host, Sahal Abdi. I'm here with my good friend Kyle Brickman. I know you guys missed him. You guys have been talking about him in the comments quite a bit. My New York Jets have a better record than his 49ers, but we won't talk about that. This live show was produced by none other than our brand new producer, Keon Haddad, who's going to be doing all of our. Oh man, he's a Miami Dolphins fan. This is not good. This is not good right now. I just found out our producer Keon Haddad's a Miami Dolphins fan. This is not a good start. Tonight, your Toronto Raptors defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers in their home opener. Scotiabank Arena was rocking tonight. Finished off 108-105, bringing the Raptors record to 1-0 in this brand new 2022 NBA season. Last but not least, if you love the Toronto Raptors, do us hard-working individuals at Raptors Republic a favor. Subscribe to the Raptors Republic YouTube and the Raptors Republic podcast channel, or the Rapcast, wherever you're watching or listening. Kyle, what a game. Nerves. This is everything you want in a home opener. A very good Cleveland Cavaliers side. A brand new all-star that they added to their team, Donovan Mitchell, to what was already a very good and a very talented Cleveland Cavaliers team. Now you have Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell. You have the young kid Isaac Okoro, who a lot of people have kind of forgot about. A good balance to a guy who doesn't really do much offensively, but isn't really asked to do much defensively. Can be a stalwart on some nights. And then you have the young Evan Mobley, who, just like Scottie Barnes, is going to be a fantastic player for years to come. And then you have All-Star Jared Allen. And then you got Karis LeVert. And then you got a bunch of other guys that can contribute for the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is a very good Cavs team, and the Raptors beat a very good team. Kyle, with the way that game ended, goodness gracious, my nerves were going crazy. What do you think about the ending?
It's like a classic Raptors team from last year, too. It's like everything is always a sweat. The games in which they're winning, they're going to let the other team back within like 10 points for the last 5 minutes. And then the games they lose, they're always going to keep it within 15, and sometimes they'll come back and win. So this is honestly, it makes me excited for the year. They're such an exciting young team. I get that they still have a lot of veterans, but they're generally a young team.
Yeah.
And honestly, the energy in the stadium, and especially with the younger Raptors, Scottie maybe foremost, makes me so enthusiastic to be a Raptors fan. Next 5 years looks so good. That possession, and I get we're podcasters now, so we can't exactly go through so much tape. But the possession where Scottie basically generates 3 offensive rebounds through just hard work on the glass and kicks it out for an open 3. That's the type of thing that every single team in the entire league would want, and not everyone, every star has the sort of the drive to make those sort of possessions happen. There's like a different mentality around this kid. So I appreciate he's in everyone's face. He's yelling. I think I was almost worried at the last play of the game there when he stole the ball and then managed to get a pass off to I guess it was Precious to Duncan and Sela. I was almost worried that he got a tech because the play got blown. I thought he got teed up from running back up the court yelling. He just has such an infectious energy. I'm so excited about this year, to be honest. He took a huge step.
The way that game ended with the Precious Achiuwa dunk and then Scottie Barnes raising his arms like he was running through a finish line, running around the court. I love Scottie Barnes. The way that game ended, though, it was what's the best way to describe it? It was a high octane chaos in the fourth quarter. Fred, if you're going all the way back, Fred VanVleet's unselfish pass to Gary Trent when he was open himself in the corner. Gary hit a big 3. Pascal's ISO on Donovan Mitchell lay-in. I thought it was going in. That rimmed out. Chetty Osman, he had an illegal screen late in the game, flattened Fred VanVleet. I mean, some Raptors fans were a little bit torn. Some thought it was a flop. Some thought that Chetty gave him a little too much hip on that screen.
It could Scottie be both.
Barnes is it
could be really be both. Sometimes really people are so black and white with it was a flop or it was like a legitimate call. You put a guy in a position where he can flop, that's on you. So yeah, it was a flop, but also Jetty is wrong for allowing Fred to flop. You did something that if another good player is going to take advantage of, that's on you. You deserve a turnover. That's that.
Yeah, speaking of Scottie Barnes, he did travel on that crucial play. Were you shocked that Nick Nurse kind of let him be the ball handler on that final play?
Uh, I don't know if shocked is the right word. I'm definitely I'm encouraged. I guess in a way I was shocked that he put so much faith in Scottie, but it's not shocked in a bad way. I'm not. I'm actually super enthusiastic about the prospect of Scottie being a lead ball handler, and it just felt as a playmaker tonight, he was the guy who sort of got the offense initiated almost better than anyone else. And I'd like to see him more of the second unit as the initiator. And it's nice to see
Yeah.
Nurse putting the kind of faith in Scottie late in games to be a playmaker, because really that's one of his incredible like natural skill sets, is actually as a playmaker, and he does all these little things that we praise him for, like the rebounding and the energy and the defense, but he's a really, really good playmaker. That no look pass to OG was beautiful. That was like that should be clipped, and NBA should be reposting that right now if they haven't. We need to hit that on the NBA Instagram feed ASAP.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's going to be something to come from Scottie Barnes for quite a while. After that travel, the Cavs went to the free throw line. They hit both on a play where Pascal Siakam got his sixth foul, fouled out, gave a little hip check. I guess you could call it that to Donovan Mitchell. I mean, refs aren't going to allow that. That's the good thing, I guess, as an offensive player. If you go baseline and you drive really hard baseline, especially for right-handed players, if you're on the weak side, you drive hard to the baseline. If they don't give you that space, if that defender doesn't give you that space, it just takes a little bit of a flop and you go out of bounds. Next thing you know, it's a foul. So Siakam fouled out. Gary Trent Jr., unfortunately, went to the free throw line, missed his first free throw. This is where the nerves were really, really getting to me, at least. Kyle, he missed his first free throw. Scotiabank Arena was devastated. He did hit the second one. At this point, like I said, my nerves are going crazy. OG Anunoby got his fourth foul. He fouled Karis LeVert with 4.5 seconds to go. He hit both free throws. It was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then finally, the Raptors broke that press. Scottie Barnes got it out to Precious with a final dunk. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to nitpick Kyle. Precious probably should have just held on to the ball, but I mean, it is what it is. He did get his dunk. The Raptors are 1-0. Everyone seems excited. In the live comments, I'm sure if you're listening to this the next day, and whether you're in the morning commute to work or whatever it is, you're excited. Your Raptors are 1-0, and they beat a very good Cavaliers team. A Cavaliers team that, by the way, Kyle, they were missing their all-star Darius Garland, who went out with an eye injury. What did you think about Donovan Mitchell picking up the slack for the Cavs when Darius Garland went out with that eye injury?
Incredible, especially as a playmaker. And
yeah,
I guess he was sort of asked that to do that a lot in Utah, but to sort of a differing degree, because he always would play with Conley, and Ingles kind of had some playmaking juice, and they just ran a different offense in general. I thought he actually showed the amount of promise that, like, as a playmaker, that could have him be like a full-time lead guard. He seemed like a completely proficient, and it wasn't necessarily just operating the high pick and roll, although a lot of it was high pick and roll stuff. He seemed to be genuinely interested in getting his teammates involved, like as an emotional leader, beyond just like hitting open looks. So I'm proud of Donovan Mitchell, but I do want to go back to your nitpicking on Precious.
On Precious,
you guys don't know. I just want to point it out. So he's one of the most natural haters I've ever seen. he's like one of the purest haters I've ever seen. He's like dedicated his life to hating. And this is like, Boucher obviously missed this game. Maybe this is the year of Precious. So I'm tracking this. That was one against Precious, and we'll see where it goes, because I can't have that. Whatever. He dunked the ball.
That's fair. And Precious, to be quite honest, he didn't get much of an opportunity until late in the game. He was benched for quite a bit, Kyle. In the starting lineup, he wasn't included. I mean, this was a storyline that Raptors fans have been following for quite a while. Is it going to be Precious in the starting lineup, or is it going to be Gary Trent Jr.? We even had a post on our Raptors Republic Instagram of what fans thought. Most people thought Gary Trent Jr., and Nick Nurse did opt to go with Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, Scottie Barnes, and Pascal Siakam. for the starting lineup. The game started off with Gary getting hot. Like, he was not playing around, and there's a lot of pressure, Kyle. When you come into a game, it's the first game of the year. Remember, preseason, you're really just playing a quarter or a half of basketball. The fans, yes, they're crazy, but I mean, when regular season hits and you're facing that competitive team, things change. The team looked so active defensively in the first quarter. Some guys to highlight: Delano Banton looked great. Him and Christian Koloko came in with 5 minutes into the 5 minutes left in the first quarter. I was not expecting that at all. I do know my friend Asad, who I did have on a previous wrap-up show. He had a little blog that he posted about how he thought Christian Koloko was going to get some early minutes. So kudos to him. I mean, Chris Boucher was out. Tons of people, Raptors fans, were talking about how, who's going to pick up the slack for Chris Boucher. A lot of people just assumed it would be Precious Achiuwa. Chris Boucher was out. Koloko came in, and man, oh man, like, Kyle, this guy, I kind of knew Delano Banton at this point would come in and carve out his role. He's looked impressive the entire offseason, dating all the way back to the AmeriCup. But Christian Koloko coming in as a rookie and making that first impression, Kyle, what did you think about the rookie coming in and stamping his ground for the Raptors?
It's nice to have a real rim protector, like a threat in the paint around the rim that's actually going to deter other teams. And he had a few blocks, but it's not even the actual contest stuff at the rim. It's that it changes the way the Raptors are able to guard teams. It changes the way other teams actually attack the Raptors. When Koloko went into the game, it was like a layup line. It looked like warm-up. And Mitchell was a lot of that, just getting downhill and getting to the basket so easily. Koloko altered things in a legitimate way. So, and that's just a defense end. To be honest, it's nice to have a guy who's a serious roller, just screens, rolls to the rim. He doesn't play around. He doesn't sort of like hang out in the middle space. He doesn't try to like fade to the 3-point line. He's setting the screen. He's getting downhill to the rim, and that you kind of sometimes need that. And beyond that, and I know I just called you out for hating on Precious, but I do have to mention it. It's so nice to see a guy grab a rebound and just get it to a guard immediately. None of this like, I got to take the ball off the floor. What happens? Let's see what happens if I get a little touch in transition here. Like, what happens if I like maybe show off my handles? None of that. Just like catch the ball, hand it over to Fred VanVleet. I love that. They need more of that. And I think I almost call him Bo Cruz. Juancho did the same thing. Juancho did the same thing. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily like this is the instruction with those two guys, or they're just new to the team and they're feeling it out. But it's nice to see guys deferring to like the lead guards or the Siakams of the world. Those are the guys who should bring the ball to the court. It's one thing in transition. I don't like seeing Precious initiate every possession.
Yeah. I feel like we kind of got used to, with Kem Birch being out for so long and at so many points last season, we kind of got used to this Raptors offense just not having a true roller to the rim on a pick and roll. Fred VanVleet mentioned it, I believe it was in training camp, when he said, thank God we got a guy like Christian Koloko, because now he can run these high pick and rolls, come downhill, and what are defenses going to do? I mean, Evan Mobley on one specific play in the first quarter, I'm reading this in my game notes, where Evan Mobley, instead of just attacking Fred VanVleet and stepping up, he gave him that floater. And Fred's not really a floater guy, Kyle. You know what I mean? He's not that guy, and he's going to have a lot more opportunities this year to take advantage of that. He's going to get that space with Christian Koloko coming downhill, attracting. I said Koloko's gravity on the pick and roll kind of forced Evan to stay home, watch for that alley-oop, because Koloko can get up there, and then that gave Fred the easy floater. I love that personally. And then Koloko also, he's going to be annoying. He's going to be very annoying for defenses coming downhill on these pick and rolls, whether it's Fred or Delano or whoever it is, because defenses are going to have to make a decision. And if you have a guy that can finish at the rim like Koloko, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. Remember, we're not calling this guy Hall of Fame. We're not calling him an all-star, but this is a guy who was selected, late in the draft. This is not a top 10 pick like Scottie Barnes was last season. This is a guy that, when I'm referring back to the show again that I did with Swar Lasers or Asad, we both projected that, we wouldn't see a lot of Christian Koloko this season at all. And then the Chris Boucher injury happened, and Otto Porter's out. And so there's open spots in the rotation. And Christian Koloko, I think, made the most of it. So, you got to give kudos to Christian for sure. And then Delano Banton, on the other hand, he just looks like he belongs. He's moving in all the right spots offensively. He was given a lot of ball handling duties. In this game. He had a nice extra pass to Scottie Barnes in the first quarter. Scottie Barnes hit the elbow three. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the young players so far. And I know a lot of people, in the live comments are as well. They're impressed with Koloko. He has a long way to go. But remember, he's super young. He's not a fantastic rim finisher, but he's a rim disruptor defensively, and he's a guy that's going to force, like I said, defenses to stay honest at the rim. He is that alley-oop threat, and I think Fred's going to be given a lot of opportunities coming downhill this season because of that. Going into more of the second quarter, Kyle, the Raptors, it was probably their worst quarter, easily. They were sloppy on defense. A lot of dribble penetration allowed. Donovan Mitchell came in the game and just absolutely dominated. He was knifing through the defense, to use a phrase that William Liu used in his tweet, for layups. I mean, it was just easy. Everything came easy for Donovan Mitchell in the second quarter. He was finding, Chetty Osman or what's his name? Something Dean. I always forget his name. It's that one power forward. Dean Wade. He was finding him in the corner for kick-out corner threes. I'm sorry, man. He's just one of those guys I'm just not going to remember. But the Raptors did let Donovan Mitchell dictate the game, and they were outscored 26-12 in the paint in the first half. Everything just came easy. Third quarter, a little bit more competitive, Kyle. But what did you think overall in the contrast between that second quarter and then the rest of the second half?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, was Mitchell just cooking, and sometimes that's what happens. But to be fair, I didn't really like some of the lineup decisions. I don't know why. I don't know why we're not giving Scottie more run with the bench unit, or at least like Scottie plus shooters. I think. Okay, fine. We've already conceded that he won't be. We, meaning like the Raptors organization has conceded that he won't be like the main option late in games. He's not going to be the star of the team right now. That's fine, but he can at least run the second unit without Siakam. And I felt like maybe it's a personalities issue now. Like he hasn't asserted himself, but when he asserts himself and he sort of takes over as a playmaker, he is so good. And I talked about the no look pass, but just in general, his lead guard minutes, if you want to call it that. And we don't have the numbers in front of us yet because it's so quick after the game. His lead guard minutes just look so good. The offense moves in such a specific, like, space-friendly way, and the Raptors' biggest problem is spacing. And for whatever reason, maybe it's because Scottie's a super capable playmaker, and therefore they're not going to overhelp on him because he's capable of finding an open man, or whether it's just because the guys are knocking down open shots. The Scottie-centric offense looks really, really good, and I'd like to see as much as that as possible going forward.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I retweeted you when you tweeted that. I mean, the
he
Scottie
looks good.
point guard.
He looks like the man.
Yeah, he looks like he's been given that role in training camp and in preseason, and he's finally really starting to warm up to it. And I like it. I personally like it, and I think it's going to help Fred VanVleet a lot this season. A guy who was exhausted near the end of the year of all the ball handling duties that he was responsible for. It's going to help a lot. I think the more ball handlers you have, it's just going to make your offense run that much more smoothly. I think that's one of the most, pressing and significant things that were brought up leading up to this game is, can the Raptors really operate? Doesn't matter who's ball handling. Can they operate in that half court offense, Kyle? And the first quarter, it looked pretty damn good. I mean, OG looked like he was finding the right spots. Pascal did not care that he was going up against one of the best shot blocking, if not the best shot blocking front court duo in the league. He was attacking the rim. Gary Trent Jr. was spacing it really well. I think you saw a lot of good things early on in, I guess, some, I want to say, aspects of the game for Toronto that many people thought would be issues. Now, I'm not ready yet to say that guys like Thad Young at the end of the rotation today, Delano Manton.
He looked kind of lost today. That looked really lost in a weird way because he's such a vet, and it's odd to see a guy like that make like some kind of weird errors. Like
he looked more like a rookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked more like a rookie than Christian Coloco today, which was kind of weird. I feel like Christian just played unleashed. Delano kind of played unleashed. They didn't really care about making mistakes, and I think that's when you can find the best in these players. But yeah, that other than that one corner three he hit that was swung to him, he did kind of look like he maybe didn't belong a little bit. But I'm not again. We're one game in. I'm not ready to say that Daddy Young should be moved out of the rotation or anything like that, especially with Otto and Boucher dealing with injuries. I think all you can ask from that at this point is just to swing that ball around and play honest defense, hit the corner three whenever you can. Shot selection it's extremely important, I think, for Thaddeus Young, knowing that, I can take this shot and I cannot take this shot. The corner three, I mean, Nick Nurse has almost conditioned each player on the team to be able to shoot that corner three. You never want to, I mean, if Precious Achiuwa was doing it at an extremely, efficient rate at the end of last year, and when Precious is doing it, I mean, at that point, you're going to give the green light to everybody to shoot that three. But yeah, Thad Young didn't look great. I feel like most players for Toronto did look good in spurts. Were there any other specific players in this game that caught your eye?
We should mention Barnes is a plus 20. It's the highest on the team. He had 7 assists, which is I think last year he averaged maybe 3.5, so doubling last year's average. I think he can be around easily 5 or 6 assists tonight, especially if he maintains this level of usage. Juancho played about 7 minutes and has a -8. He basically came in the game, he stank it up, and they sat him on the bench, maybe permanently. I don't know how much run that he's going to get. I'm trying to think of the other new guys that are worth mentioning. Otherwise, it's just sort of the same crowd. I thought OG at the beginning, I don't like the OG centric offense, but if he can be satisfied with being a true role player, get those little duck ins, stay in the dunker spot, get the dump offs from the Scottie possessions, get the kickouts from the Pascal possessions, get this the swing stuff to the far corner. He can be like a tremendous player. I thought he started off the game pretty weak and he ended the game tremendously. He had some nice passes. He's always been an underrated playmaker. And I think that his playmaking is underrated largely because his ball handling and his creation is bad. But as a passer, he's got super good instincts, and he's always going to find the open guy in a timely fashion. A lot of passing is not technique; it's just timing. And OG has great timing as a passer. But the possessions that he runs almost never look good. And to be fair, it seems as if every year prior to this one, we had is OG going to break out, the 1 million articles from, or maybe at least 2 members of this show claiming it's OG's breakout year. And this year that didn't really happen. Maybe the pressure's off and that unleashes him in a way. Maybe it's just we've sort of become accustomed. We've given up on the OG breakout project and just accepted him as a role player. And I think that's fine. It's okay to be a role player. He's a tremendous role player. And I was happy with his performance tonight. I was really happy. I thought he actually played his standing, despite the fact that he was 5 for 12 and had 3 turnovers and some pretty ugly, back down type possessions.
Yeah, I think the good thing with OG is that you can chalk up kind of his offensive mistakes to just it being a bad game. OG, I think, is going to be in a lot more spots this year where he's going to have a very efficient year. I think he doesn't really have to do too much. I think if he gives you, anywhere from 15 to 20 points per game, gives you all NBA defense, the Raptors are in a very good situation because they don't need OG to put up 20 points per game. They don't need him to put up 22, 24 points per game. He's in a very specified role that I think accentuates all of his strengths. This may be the year that we see OG, finally go over that hump and get that all NBA or all defense recognition. I think the best play of the game, Joe Wolfond on Twitter from The Score, I thought, he tweeted about it and I quote tweeted him, and I thought the play of the game was that final defensive switch that OG got on Evan Mobley when Evan Mobley was, short rolling to the rim. Evan Mobley was absolutely stonewalled at the rim by OG. Like, he was expecting nobody to be there, and OG Anunoby was there waiting for him, came crashing down from the weak side corner. These are the type of plays you need from guys like OG Anunoby, right?
Yeah, I didn't even mention the defense because it just goes without saying. Like
Yeah,
he will always be that guy on that end of the floor. And I agree with this comment completely. Every single team, he's breaking into the starting five, any NBA team, and that includes the
100%.
Warriors. I think he plays for, yeah, I think he plays for almost any team in the NBA. I think he plays for every team in the NBA. I'm gonna stick to it. This is a hot take. I don't care. I think he starts for every team in the NBA easily. Walks in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
And the Raptors are lucky to have a guy like that. They whether the touches are because they think that's their best offense or whether that's to appease him emotionally. Like I know there's been like some chatter. Who knows how real that is? Oftentimes, it seems like people just make stuff up about like the X player is unhappy in their role because they're not getting enough touches or they're not, whatever. That's like the most classic lazy sports journalism. So I'm not sure. I don't know if
Yeah.
I even want to buy into that, but I'm not sure if the touches are because they need to placate him or because they actually think they're good shots. But if it's the latter and they think it's good, they're really good touches, really good shots. I would urge the Raptors to reconsider and maybe put the ball in Pascal's hands. Like I think Pascal can handle a bigger offensive load. He looked great tonight. We barely spoke about him because he's just like that's
He's just
Pascal.
Pascal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like what are we even
He's just
supposed to say?
Pascal.
Yeah, he's good. He's the best player on the team. I think
Yeah. And
oftentimes like people kind of because the nature of the show is like it's so immediate. Um,
mhm,
I
for
don't even
sure.
think about I don't think about Pascal a lot of the time because it's like that's just an everyday Pascal performance. I also, you guys are mentioning the refs in the chat. I don't. What do you want us to say about it? Every time people mention the refs, what do you want us to say about the refs? I don't care. If they were good or bad, I don't care about the refs. It's just part of the game, unless it's like a horrible decision. So
Yeah, I think if we go back to OG, Kyle, one thing that stands out, this is a guy, if you look at his career stats, 1.4 assists career on a per game basis. In this game, 5 assists. Last season, he played 36 minutes a game. And yes, he did only play 48 games, but 36 minutes a game, 2.6 assists. This is a guy that's not known, not necessarily, I think, on a Gary Trent Jr. level to really be a ball stopper, so to speak. But OG's not known to, have high assist numbers. And I think him having 5 assists is a very good start because, you look at the rest of the guys, Pascal Siakam, he doesn't get one assist very often. He had one assist in the game. But I think if you look at it, from a surface level, you're wondering, well, maybe Pascal should have passed more. No, he was driving in. He was doing a great job of bringing in the defense, attracting all the Cleveland Cavalier defenders inside, kicking it out. It's just the Cavs were really, really good at getting to that first guy that Pascal was getting to. Their switches were really good, but the ball kept moving. And that's what the Raptors have become so good at. And a lot of times OG was that second to last guy to touch it, and he's swinging it to the next guy, and that's an assist. So 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists for OG Anunoby in 38 minutes is pretty damn good. And, for the Raptors, they played 10 guys tonight, from the starting 5 to Precious, Christian, Thaddeus, Delano, and then they played our our favorite guy, Bo Cruz, for 7 minutes in this game. They went 10 deep, and I think you almost had to because, I tweeted earlier, in the night that I think part of the reason why the fourth quarter was so high octane was because the game was moving fast, the pace was increased, tenfold. And I think a lot of that had to do with fatigue, Kyle. I think a lot of guys were tired. They weren't used to playing a full game just yet. This is the first game of the season. Preseason, you're usually playing that first half, maybe 3 quarters, and then you're out, right? And you're letting the second and third units take over. I feel like we started seeing a little bit of noodle legs at the end of the game, and that was leading to a lot of fast break opportunities, a lot of transition opportunities. Jared Allen, he had some massive, massive blocks in the game. OG Anunoby with some big shots. It was everything was happening very fast, right? And I think for Toronto, it was important that they kind of calmed it down once they felt like it was getting out of control and getting in Cleveland's favor. They calmed it down. It became a little bit of a half-court game, and then they just started drawing fouls. And then you saw a very Toronto-esque grinded-out win at the end there. Other than OG, and obviously, we talk about Pascal ad nauseum on this show. Were you impressed with, the other 3 starters and Fred, Gary, Scottie?
I thought Fred's restraint was like commendable. He took 9 shots. He shot 50% from 3, and he didn't force anything, which was I think we talked about a lot on this show last year in general. Like there were moments in which Fred Force put up a lot of unnecessary shots, and he seems to be more content with being basically a floor spacer. Bring the ball up and get them into an offense, but don't necessarily like take all the possessions for yourself. He did kind of quietly play 39 minutes. It'd be nice to see. And it's not even a criticism. It's just like I would hope that they're capable of mixing in like whether it be Banton or Flynn or I don't even know, like someone else who can initiate the offense and get Fred a rest because like the minutes are going to quickly add up, and it kind of happened last year. You saw like the Raptors are basically dead by February, so we'll see. Like
Hopefully not this season.
Eventually, it'd be nice if they had a backup point guard who had enough juice that they can give Fred a break. But I thought in general Fred played a really quiet but excellent game. I love Freddie as an off-ball spacer, as like a
Yes.
guy as a spot-up shooter, and I think that's always been his best role. That's when he played the best basketball of his career in the Milwaukee series, and then the Warriors series to win the Raptors the championship. He was basically like the second side ball handler, floor spacer type guy, and that's his best role. I hope he gets back to that this year. And a lot of those, again, we're clearing out touches. I'm like remodeling the offensive architecture of the Raptors. We're taking out the walls. Where I'm like redoing the tiling. I'm doing everything.
Nice.
Like I want more shots for Pascal, and I want more shots for Scottie. I'm fine cutting a lot of these other shots out of the offense. I'm cool.
That's fine. I think that's fine. I think I'm okay with that as well. Going back to the fatigue that I was mentioning, people mention the preseason, Kyle, and they go, well, this is why we do preseason. This is why you do training camp. Like there shouldn't be a fatigue factor. Well, I mean, I hate to say it to you, but players are getting back in game shape in a competitive 5-on-5 settings, but most players and particularly the starters aren't playing this late in the game, like I mentioned, right? Which is why in the fourth quarter you saw tons of blow-bys, massive dunks by Christian Koloko, Scottie Barnes. Like I mentioned, the big blocks by Jared Allen, big shots by OG Anunoby. Everything happened very fast. And I know a lot of people, are going to mention, well, if we went 10 deep, then why didn't Malachi Flynn get a chance to play? Well, the Cavs are a pretty big team. Like if we're talking size, this is a very, very large team. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Karis LeVert. I know he's not that big of a guy, but off the bench they got Kevin Love, Dean Wade. Okoro's a pretty big swingman. Like these are big dudes. This was going to be a physical game, and I think it's tough for Nick Nurse to go. There's only so many minutes that can go around. It's tough for Nick Nurse to go. I'm going to throw in Malachi for 10 minutes because that's 10 minutes that you're taking away from someone else. I know Raptors fans, they love making very hasty, remarks and decisions sometimes based on the rotation. Guys, Malachi Flynn's not out of the rotation. Like I wanted to just say that right now. He's not out of the rotation, but at the same time, you cannot be shocked this season if guys like Malachi Flynn and honestly even guys like Delano Banton, Juancho Hernan Gomez, like some of these guys just may not get much minutes this year if everyone's healthy. Remember, a lot of these guys were getting minutes in past seasons, Kyle, when injuries were happening. And the Raptors have been a very I don't want to even say injury prone, but they've suffered a lot of injuries dating all the way back to the COVID season, right? So this is a team that's dealt with situations where you have to throw in some of these depth guys. Right now, they're almost fully healthy. I mean, Chris Boucher's not there. Otto Porter's not there just yet. When those guys get back and you're looking at the rest of the team, there's just not going to be many minutes to go around, Kyle, no?
Yeah, I do want to touch on like the conditioning thing one more time. People seem to think that it means that it's an indictment of the players, and oftentimes it's because the only time we talk about like playing yourself in game shape is like when there's that viral picture of Harden looking like huge, looked like he spent the whole offseason one of those like Vegas buffets you see on TikTok where they weigh you before you go in and when you go out to charge you for your food. Like that's one element of things. But even like really good athletes, it takes months to get into the right shape to play competitive basketball. That's normal. So it's going to be, and not only like conditioning wise, but just like shooting wise, responsible, like mentally, focus wise, it's going to take a couple weeks to a month to look like a really good NBA team. So that should be expected. If you watch any of the other games tonight, if you watch any of the games yesterday, like, or I guess the game yesterday, no, there were a couple. The league is not looking great, and that's fine. It's the first couple days. That's what basketball looks like at this stage.
I mean, the Lakers are just bad. If we're going to talk
Yeah,
about the Lakers,
I'm
they're
sorry
just
if you had to watch the Lakers yesterday.
they're just a bad. They're just a bad basketball. We just
Yeah.
saw one of the best teams in the league just go up against a team that's just not going to be great in the Western Conference this year. And I'm sorry to all the LeBron fans out there, but you know, the Lakers just didn't look good. Fatigue or not, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it is what it is. The Celtics 76ers game was great. I don't want to, you know, go off topic too much, but that was pretty good. I mean, that was a hard fought contest. I enjoyed that. But in this game, I think you saw, you know, in the Raptors Cavs game, you saw a lot of what you expected. You saw some things that you didn't expect in the form of Delano Banton and Christian Koloko and Scottie Barnes' role increasing a little bit. You know, and you saw some great things from the Cavs as well. I mean, I know we don't talk about the other team that often, but like I said earlier, this is a very, very, very good basketball team. You know, I was kind of worried from the outside looking in, kind of thinking, you know what, maybe it's going to take the Cavs a little longer, longer than a lot of people think, for Donovan Mitchell to come in and kind of gel with that team. Because remember, you're just throwing in a 25 point per game scorer in there and just hoping he'll gel, right? And this is coming from a team where Darius Garland did a lot of the scoring for them last season, you know, and he's going to have to kind of just give it up, I guess, to Donovan Mitchell quite a bit. He had 31 points in 35 minutes, 9 assists from Donovan Mitchell as well. This is a game that Darius Garland only played 13 minutes, and he was out, like I said earlier, with a right eye injury.
I should mention, we have no tax man. No more.
Yeah,
we should give out a player of the game, but this is a good opportunity to say, if you want to advertise on this show, reach out to one of us on Twitter, and we'll talk numbers. I don't know, a couple 100,000 per episode, something like that.
Just a couple.
Yeah,
just a couple. Nothing serious.
But until then, we're just gonna give out a generic player of the game. Like, we don't even have a slogan. We've got nothing. But to me, I think it kind of has to be. I mean, we'll give it to Koloko. Why not? Actually, I was going to say Scottie, but there'll be other moments for Scottie. I thought Koloko had a really good debut, and this is kind of what he needs.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
Tiana saying Spicy P. It's going to happen too many times. This is like an average Pascal game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of what we did last season was constantly give that player of the game to Pascal, just because. I mean, naturally, he's just the best player on the team, and he probably was the player of the game for the majority of the games last season. But I think we're going to change it up a little this year. Which player most impressed you? Kyle says Christian Koloko. I'm okay with that, to be honest. I'm fine with it, because I didn't really expect much from Christian, and he looks like a guy that, you know, you can give him 15 minutes like you did tonight until Chris Boucher gets back, and he's not going to look like he's totally out of control. You know, I'm looking at some of the other guys, of course. OG, like we said, had a pretty good game. Gary hit some timely shots near the end. But if we're talking about players that, you know, you just didn't really expect this from and they came in and impressed, Christian Koloko's in that discussion. I know, like I said earlier, Delano Banton only played 9 minutes, but he's in that discussion. He just didn't look lost, which is great for a second-year player. Fred did a great job leading today. A lot of communication, a lot of great steals. Drawing a ton of fouls. Fred did great as well. I'm okay with Christian Koloko, though. I'm okay with that, because genuinely, Kyle, I don't know if we're ever going to mention him again in terms of which player most impressed you for the rest of the season.
We're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, especially when Chris Boucher gets back. So it's going to be tough. I know Raptors fans were excited from what they saw from the young rookie tonight as well. I think that'll wrap it up for us tonight. I mean, this was a fun post-game live show. Obviously, hopefully later in the season, we're going to have more of our hosts on, our co-hosts, and Oren Weisfeld, who was at the game, covering the game at the Scotiabank Arena. Aiden Moss will hopefully be on very soon. We're going to have some special guests like I had earlier in the preseason. I know a lot of people enjoyed some of the guests that we brought on. We might bring on some Raptors of Public colleagues of ours as well. Who knows? It should be fun. But this was great. I mean, this was the season opener. Cleveland Cavaliers, Toronto Raptors. Your Raptors came away with a 108-105 win. This was great for Toronto coming off and starting off the season 1-0. This live show was produced by none other than Keon Haddad. He's in the background. He's doing all the legwork that you guys see, all the switching, all the video, all that good stuff. Right now, you can't see him, guys, but he's flexing. He's feeling himself in the background right now. Before you guys leave us tonight, myself and Kyle Brickman need you to subscribe to the Raptors Republic YouTube as well as our podcast channel. You can search Rapcast on anywhere where you listen to your podcast. This was the wrap up, your official Raptors Republic postgame live show, where your Raptors defeated the Cavs 108-105. That's 1-0, undefeated, untouched this season. That was it for myself, Kyle, and Keon. Kyle, any last words before we head out?
No, like the video. I'm excited for this year, and I'll see you Friday.
Friday, Brooklyn. Sounds good.